Hi, Caspar on the 21st of May 2018, and good golly, I'm excited about this one. If you haven't heard of Assyrtiko, it's a great variety. I think you must have been living in a cage, because there's been so much talk about it in the press, there's so much written up about it, and it really has become identified as being one of the world's great grapes that can perform in exemplary fashion as a monovarietal, unblended. And the home of Assyrtiko is the island of Santorini, and as you probably know, Santorini was blown up in an enormous volcanic eruption a couple of thousand years ago, and so the soils are generally sort of ash lavic soils, and the vines, you know, some of the vines of Santorini are some of the oldest in the world, in 500 years or so. They train them in a fascinating way. They tend to let them start growing, and then they'll train them round in a circle and weave them into these big baskets that just sit on this lavic soil. The grapes eventually hanging down from that basket. Here we are. Anyway, 2017 wild ferment Assyrtiko from the firm of Gaia, and we're looking at vines that are ungrafted and 80 years old. The significance of the ungrafted bit is that after phylloxera, the great devastating aphid outbreak that really devastated the vineyards of Europe, came in from North America via a garden in Kew, funnily enough. But after that, almost all European vines had to be grafted onto American vine rootstocks, American species of vines, so not Vitis vinifera. They had to be grafted onto roots that were not susceptible to this devastating louse. But when you have soils that are very sandy, as in Colares in Portugal, or here in Santorini, you don't need to graft them. So these are vines on their own rootstocks, which I think is really quite a special thing. Fascinating wine in other ways. It's aged partly in oak, and that oak is French, American and acacia. So an unusual thing for many reasons, and I am now going to get on and taste it, and I'm excited about this because I love Assyrtiko. I think it is just one of the most brilliant grape varieties on the planet. A pale, faintly greenish tinge to the clear lemon colour. It looks like a lovely thing in the grape glass, and it's got a nose. There's a fractional bit, there's a bit of wood floating on the top of the aromas at the moment. Bit of sort of toastiness, but lovely lemon and earthy sort of thrust to it, and it's a wine of great exactitude under that oak. And I think, you know, Assyrtiko generally can take a bit of oak, and Assyrtiko really is a grape that will age fantastically well as well, especially, you know, made from vines of this age, 80 plus years old. It's got an earthy citrus and orchard fruit, very clear cut set of aromas. It smells delicious. It smells like a young wine. It smells like it could do perhaps with another year or two at least in the bottle. And I'm going to sip it. Crikey, and you know, goodness me, you know, there are certain wines, and I include in those the wines of Miani in Friuli and a number of others, that you put them in your mouth and all your senses just pick up and pay attention. It bristles with energy, and it's got such presence, and it's got such definition in the mouth. Yes, it has that bit of oak that you can taste on the palate, but the fruit, the structure is so upright and so definitive that one can only really marvel at it. I mean, it's got a fascinating, as I say, a fascinating and assertive thing. It's got what is very typical of Santorini Assyrtiko, which is a great sort of earthy, almost ashen pumice sort of texture to it, and a sort of lemon freshness. Even in that heat, it manages to retain a great sort of upright freshness that sort of cuts across the palate and wakes you up. It's got sort of herbal characters going on in there, and that actually, the further you go through the palate, the oak sort of recedes, and what you're left with is this great focused, direct wine that is really a really exciting thing. Dense, really expressive, big, fine textured grip. It takes you off into the far distance. It's an enormously long thing. I mean, this is, if you manage to cross the most mineral Chablis with the finest wines of sort of the Côte d'Or, finest white Burgundies, Pouligny, or perhaps more Chassagne because of that earthy character, one would end up with something like this, a wine of such extraordinary, slightly awe-inspiring character. It's just fabulous. It really is. And actually, you know, I'm not a person who likes oaky wines, but I think that oak will be completely subsumed by the fruit eventually, and just needs a year or two, and I think will last 8, 9, 10 years, no problem in the bottle. I can't remember how much it costs. I'm pretty sure this represents extraordinary value for something that's tiny production, and you know, from such an old venerable vineyard. There we are. I recommend to you enormously this 2017. But it is the 17. And these wines get big scores from Jancis Robinson on her website, and pretty much every other observer who tastes them. But there we are, 2017 Wild Ferment Assyrtiko from the firm of Gaia, and from a venerable vineyard in Santorini. And I'm in love with this thing. I think it's utterly marvellous. I hope you buy it and try it, because I think you will get enormous reward. Lovely.